to be, in my mind, fiscally responsible and still provide some ad, I would be in favor of the 250 level.
That makes sense to me.
I'm
Mike?
good with that.
I agree.
Okay. And does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to join the Fed bike membership at the $250 a year level for 1 year.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. 5C, discuss sustainability goals and staff direction.
Yeah, so this has been briefly discussed since October. So one of the things that, as we are looking kind of just at facilities in general and sustainability, and again, with Kyla jumping on, kind of a reminder that this is Public Works and sustainability. So one of the things I wanted to bring back to this committee was the current resolution that was passed desperately needs updates. Some of the recommendations specifically to vehicles is just not attainable within our fiscal constraints. So one of my recommendations, and again, this is not a discuss and consider, this is just a discuss, is I would like to revise those sustainability goals to focus primarily on the village's net footprint. So what can we do at our facilities to get as close as net neutral? However, also kind of tying it with some fiscal responsibility. So whenever we look at a facility project or a well or whatever, we look at, okay, we've at least cost what it includes to put solar, geothermal, and these are the pros and cons. This also helps us if we establish sustainability goals from a facilities perspective with applications to both the state and federal, because we have clear directions and goals that we're working towards. And we can show that there's just a funding gap that we would do that. We could move forward if, kind of similar to TID funding, if this was available. So my recommendation would be giving staff direction to revise the sustainability goals with an emphasis on village facilities to reach net zero by kind of working with our team. What is a realistic time frame? And then kind of a secondary goal to start identifying ways to electrify our fleets. And kind of, but definitely for our grant application purpose, having those tiered goals, the tier 1 being facilities, tier 2 being vehicles, will help us in that process. So I also like to hear any feedback that this group has on that, or any other direction.
Any discussion?
I mean, I think that makes sense. When we initially did it, it was to get something on paper, to get the ball moving, right? So I think an update is needed. I think as I was thinking about this, I don't know, this as sustainability joined with Public Works became a permanent committee, on actually what the role of this committee maybe could be or should be. And you look at the police station plans out there, and it's obvious that everyone is already thinking about sustainability and the plans out there. And so in some ways, but in other words, like, what role did this committee have in looking at the designs and approving it or promoting it or reviewing it when it comes to any capital expenditure? Parks is not covered by this committee, but they have many vehicles that can be covered, electrified essentially, right? So, I mean, I agree fully with your statement. It could be rehashed. I think the idea moving forward that with any new capital expenditure, any new project, we look at it from a sustainable point of view, with a fiscal responsible approach. But also just the second is just a question of, like, what role does this committee actually have in the village?
Certainly, and I think we also tied it, if you kind of look through our ordinances, like facilities also falls under this committee. So we were kind of really going through the ordinances and kind of re-identifying what roles and responsibilities this committee has. So as I interpret the current ordinances, it's got overall guidance on sustainability. So again, that's why we're kind of talking about policy here. I think we can definitely think about like maybe a dollar amount saying, any, vehicle purchase should at least come to this committee first, if it has a sustainability component. And again, I would say any grants that are being submitted from a sustainability perspective definitely should start here and then go to village board. And there's going to be, I'm glad you could start seeing the writing on the wall there. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And so as we looked at facilities in general, the police station, there's just been so many opportunities that we could enhance our applications by taking these steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, my view, the goal is that, an electric weed whacker or electric vehicle or solar panels is always an option or always reviewed, right? And there's always going to be, it costs 50% more, right? And that's the decision then that we'd have to make. But the fact that it's always considered is really, I think, a step in the right direction. I think it already is, to be honest, but I think that's just really the ultimate goal.
And I think that's something with our capital policy has not been touched, I think, probably in 10 or 15 years. I think that's a reasonable thing to include in our infrastructure and equipment policy that, at a minimum, it is reviewed and documented why a choice was made.
No, I would agree with that.
I would too. I think just by folding in sustainability, I think sustainability was actually ad hoc way back when. And so folding it into a standing committee has already sent the message, I think, through to staff and really through, the whole village that we are taking this seriously and taking a look at this and making this particular practice a little bit more reasonable as far as achievement and looking at goals we can actually achieve. I think it's the right way to go.
Yeah, I would like to give us flexibility such that if we have it at net zero and then we find that it's going to be maybe aspirational goal versus, saying we have to be there by a certain time, because we're already seeing across the country they're backing off utilities, people are all, so I don't want to set us into something that we feel that would be difficult to achieve, but I think it's, at this point, if we're buying something, let's look at and compare and see where it makes sense.
Yeah, and you raise a good point. Getting to net zero on any full village facility is going to be very difficult. We had some conversations on specifically the police station. It is very unlikely that building is going to get to net zero without excessive surplus, or to a point that I wouldn't recommend. Obviously, the village board could choose to go forward with additional options, but there's definitely always that cost barrier. I think we're like the last time we looked at it was about 80%, which is pretty good, 80% net neutral. So basically 20% draw on the utilities, which if we look at our facilities today, we're probably less than 5% with what we have.
Right.
Any other discussion?
Just final thing, a review of the solar panels and how they're doing actually would be awesome. I know we just haven't heard much other than they're active.
I can definitely work on getting that for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on changing over the membership to me anyway, so I can do that for you.
And we are working on your widget. I think we talked about potentially having something on website facing that would show the power generated by the solar panels up there. So we are working for capturing that data.
All right, unless there's any more discussion, we'll move on to 5D, update and discussion on e-waste event in April.
So as previously discussed, we're a little ahead of the game. It had previously been discussed that we were hoping to use dumpsters for our e-waste event. In discussions as we've started more in detailed conversations with Pelletieri, as they just started our waste management this week, the way they do the e-waste events are actually with gaylords and boxes. So everything has to be separated when it then goes to be actually recycled. So we can't just have dumpsters sitting out covered and people just throwing TVs and all of their recyclables in it. With that, we have kind of gone for more information for Pelletieri, and what they have recommended to me and that I'm here to discuss with you guys is that it's a one-day event. They find Saturdays are the most beneficial to the community, starting it at about 8 o'clock, ending between 12 and 1 o'clock, depending on what your guys' thoughts are. Pelletieri provides 1 to 2 staff. We would then have additional staff and volunteers help man that event, where they would come through and the community would drop off their recyclables. It would go into very specific boxes, and then it gets loaded back up into a trailer, and Pelletieri goes away with it. The one thing we had been aligning with it with Earth Day. Earth Day is April 22nd. The Saturday before Earth Day is Easter weekend. So as of right now, we are looking for the Saturday after Earth Day, which would be April 26th. Pelletieri has reserved that date for us if that is where we want to move forward with it. In discussions, obviously with electronics, if things get wet, it's not a good idea. So if the weather is good, no rain, snow, my thought is to have the event at our Bonnie shop outside. Our Bonnie shop, we can coordinate it with the composting, show that we have this composting site available for our residents as well. And a backup plan would then be to use the MSB building as necessary if the weather does not allow.
And this is for residents only, not businesses, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And one thing that Pelletieri did recommend to us is that when we advertise, that we would indicate that proof of residency may be required. This way it kind of gives that option if we believe we're seeing a lot of outside members come in, that we at least did notify that proof of membership could be required.
To be frank, it would be, we would state that would be, but we would not actively man that. It's just a deterrent. We
Correct.
are paying per pound for
Thanks
this.
for saying that on the public forum.
I mean, to be fully transparent, we don't want to be garbage police here. And to be also frank, it came to our attention the level of recycling that was being done in our prior contract did not really meet any type of sustainability goals. And while we weren't directly paying for it, this is a much more efficient, effective program. The components are being appropriately recycled. It's not ending up in the landfill. So this program there's a reason why Pelletieri gave us these kind of quote unquote restrictions, because they follow things by the book.
Any other discussion? All right, then we will move to number 6, new business, discuss request to install benches at a stormwater pond.
So, a couple weeks ago, back in December, a resident reached out to trustee Cindy Kelm-Nelson regarding building benches for one of our stormwater retention ponds that are located in an easement over by the post office. The resident has offered to build and provide all the materials themselves for the benches to be placed. One of the things that they have noticed, or they have noted in the request, is that they see a lot of residents fishing and skating on that pond. And I can pull that pond up if you guys are interested in knowing where that exactly is located. It's a couple things to think about as we talked about it with staff, that we currently don't have the resident would be putting the bench wherever they would like, essentially, unless we regulate where we would like it to put. So the process of this that we determined as staff is that it would come here to this committee, potentially go to parks, and then it would go to ultimately village board for the decision for these benches to be built. The only bench that we have currently placed by a stormwater pond is up in the West Lawn development over just south of the Red Hawk. However, we do have a path that leads to that bench, as well as an ADA concrete pad for that bench. This is the pond that the resident is interested in. We currently do not mow or maintain anything around this pond. And the other thing to note would be who maintains that bench long-term.
That was my main question is, does this become Sean's responsibility once it's installed to maintain and make sure? I mean, I'm all in favor, but I look at safety and liability right away as the first question mark as to, does this do anything to create exposures for us?
Correct, and that's where we as staff went as well, but it is for the betterment of the community. Apparently, residents do fish and ice skate out there. Ultimately, it would be a discussion here on what you guys would recommend, and then ultimate decision by village board.
I think it's a good idea. I think the best way to do it is probably to have him build them and then just give it to us, and then we can put it out there. We also should probably consider securing them, because I don't want him to just set them down and have someone dump them in the pond.
Mhm.
Agreed. I'll make a motion to approve the request to install or provide benches.
Okay, motion to provide benches at the stormwater pond. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just to clarify, they will be giving the bench to village to do as we wish. Clear, right?
That's what I'm understanding
Right.
from you guys.
Right, and we
Yeah.
can move it, or we can put it anywhere staff directs.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstains? All right, motion passes. Number 7, engineers report.
The engineer's report was included in the packet. The West Lawn Developer Project is currently waiting for some lift station review comments back and forth between the developer and the village staff. Corey Ridge Phase D is working on utilities currently for both sanitary and water until winter work no longer allows them to be working. And the Amazon facility has stopped any public improvements and massive site grading with the winter conditions. For the Village Public Works projects, as we discussed at the December meeting, Strand is continuing to move forward with the alternatives and the recommendations that this committee made. It is planned to be bid and advertised in late February, so at the February meeting, plans will be available for review and approval before bidding.
So that the path on BB, I'm not sure where we ended or concluded, but I'll just restate my wish, I guess, is that the path is not concrete across all the driveways, that it is asphalt. And I would strongly urge or look into that being essentially painted green. I understand that the cost and labor and maintenance associated with that, but for safety, I think that is the best option.
Absolutely. They're working on plans and cost estimate for me, so
Okay.
I will make sure that those have been looked at overall for overarching for cost.
Thank you.
Did you say we're going to talk about that at the next meeting?
Yes, the plan is for them to bring final plans and the alternatives and final cost estimate for approval, and then they will advertise and bid the project after.
Okay, director's report?
Snow operations have continued with the little snow that we've received, which is good for staff. We are also assisting the forestry department with tree trimming throughout the village as weather allows, to kind of maintain our terrace trees to make sure we're meeting our village ordinances on height restrictions. And then I've met with Pelletieri a couple times to discuss the e-waste event as we previously discussed. Any questions for me?
All right, no questions. We will move on. We have set date for next meeting. I thought we were gonna,
We were going to
Okay. take that off. We were gonna take that off. We're gonna just do the same time every month. So that would be next month,
The 4th? No, yeah,
4th.
Wednesday.
I'm in 2022, sorry.
12th, sorry, yes.
All right, February 12th at 5:30. Future agenda items, if we could just have a review of the solar panels and the street multi-use path plan. Any other future agenda items?
I'm not gonna be able to make the next February 12th meeting.
Okay. Andy will be here next month. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll go to item 11.
I've got,
Oh,
and I don't know if they're future agenda items, but 2 things, questions or discussions. Number 1, the new light poles on N at the Commerce Center. look and function well. What's going on with the old bases and patching of the concrete? Is that part of that project for them to do? Is that on us now?
The patching of the concrete is on us.
How about the removal of the old bases?
I was told that those were removed.
They're all still there.
They are all still there. I will take a look at that and provide an
I just
update.
noticed it driving by and curious what the status of that was. Because they did all the work pretty quick and then all that stuff was still left.
Yep.
So. And then the second item I had was, earlier we were discussing the fact that this is the Public Works, Properties, and Sustainability Committee. My comment goes now back to the properties and building component of that. If we are ultimately still responsible and to provide guidance on all building-related items throughout the village, are we gonna ever see anything about the police station or the library building or any building that we're ultimately responsible for owning, maintaining, et cetera? I mean, I don't know if that's the intent and, for this committee, or if we're taking a slightly different direction and the buildings become somebody else's responsibility. I'm just curious, now that we have several new members over the last few years, is that still wholly within our responsibility? And do we then have a slot on the process for all of these projects that are being discussed for us to review and comment?
Absolutely. I can take a look at that, specifically what our ordinance says. I do know that the police station has not gone in front of Plan Commission yet, or the proposed police station has not gone in front of Plan Commission yet. So in terms of what that looks like, I will talk with staff on how we get into that process and what it looks like overall for
I just
ordinance.
like a clear understanding of ultimately what our responsibility is. And,
Absolutely.
if our responsibility is to maintain it, I feel pretty strongly that we should have a say in what, how it's built and those types of items.
Well, not only for the building itself, which is probably what you're referring to, but just we're gonna take care of the asphalt parking, we're gonna take care of snow plowing, lawn mowing, et cetera,
All that stuff.
Right.
To at least get a comment on it before it's all approved and being built, and then we just have to deal with it after.
Absolutely.
And if we're not, that's fine too. I just like clear understanding of ultimately what our responsibilities are.
Sounds good.
All right, anything else?
Just a question, we talked, I think last year, about the roundabouts up by the interstate. Did we have, what were we planning to do?
Say, other than just mowing the weeds once
Yeah.
at the end of the season, we have a plan
What's the game
to
plan here?
keep them looking nice?
I would love to keep them looking nice. That is my intent. We do need to look into continual lawn maintenance care with the weeds that continue to grow. It is on my list for the pavement markings as well to discuss with Dane County, because I have noticed repeatedly that the pavement markings around those roundabouts no longer really exist. So I will get on that and provide updates here upcoming.
All right, and then we're on to item 11.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn.
Motions and seconds. Any discussion? Non-debatable, never mind. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.